Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in this Monday for another live stream where we're going to go through another indictment. Now, this indictment is long as hell. It's over 100 pages long. You know what that means? It means that I went through, I highlighted some pertinent portions of the indictment, and we're going to keep it to the important stuff because I ain't got the bandwidth to go through. What is this? How many pages is this? 107 pages is crazy work. So we're gonna go through the meat and potatoes of it. As always, I'm a licensed attorney, not your attorney, not legal financial advice, all allegations. I don't want no smoke with nobody. It's just a brother on the internet reading the indictment. So I don't want them problems, but we're gonna go through it and talk about it. So if you get some value out of this content, I know it's repetitive, but definitely hit the like button, share, subscribe, comment is a way to support the content, and it's free 99, so you definitely can't beat that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the news story first, just so we can get a little bit of background. Then we're going to go ahead and dive into this complaint. Let's get it.
Updating breaking news just coming into our newsroom. 2 fugitives wanted by the FBI, including a longtime accused LA gang leader, now in custody tonight.
Let's get right to Mark Robles, who joins us now with new developments live.
It's hilarious to see people talk about this story who have no clue who any of the persons involved in this are.
In the newsroom, Mark?
Yeah, David and Ellen, good evening. We've been following this story throughout the day. Federal officers arrested more than a dozen members tied to the gang known as the Rollin' 60s Neighborhood Crips, though its leader was on the run. Well, within the last 20 minutes, the FBI announcing that man, Eugene Henley Jr., a.k.a. Big U, is now in custody. We have just learned new details that Henley turned himself in. Earlier, Air 7 was overhead.
That's a plus. Turning yourself in is always a plus. I don't care what you're charged with, the severity of the crime, definitely a plus.
As some of the alleged gang members were being processed at the FBI's LA field office, 19 were indicted. The FBI says Henley headed up the local Crips gang for decades. Investigators say that he painted himself as an entertainment executive who's been giving back to the community with various charities, but they say Henley is a violent criminal. A woman who knew him says that he has had a positive impact on the community.
He was incredible, whether it was a 7-year-old child or a...
Now let's pause this real quick because this is actually important. It's funny. It reminds me of something somebody told me about my brother, rest in peace. But this is very important because what's being alleged is that Big U played 2 roles. He played 2 sides of the fence. That in one aspect, he was a figure in the community who provided for the youth. He had ties and legitimate business in the music industry as well as a nonprofit. On the other hand, he was running Big U Enterprises, which the government is alleging he kind of ran separately from his membership leadership in the Rollin' 60s Crips. So it's interesting. I think the biggest point to take away here, we talked about this before when we looked at some of the council members in South Carolina. Normally, when you get indicted, no one says shit positive for you. I don't care if you did a gazillion things positive. It's kind of hands off. This is actually interesting that this woman is on the air talking about the positive things that he's done. We've seen the council members, other persons who we looked at where once they were in trouble, the only character letter they could get was from their aunt and their damn cousin, which has no weight. A lot of them have no weight, but is not as strong as what this lady is about to say. So that's a big, big plus for him that he has actually people in the community speaking up for what he did positive for the community. That's huge because normally once the feds on your ass, even if you did 50,000 good things, nobody want to stand up and say any of it. So shout out to her, and we got to give him credit. He's clearly helped in some capacity in the community because this lady's vouching for him.
He was incredible, whether it was a 7-year-old child or a 50-year-old former gang member coming out of incarceration. his ability to communicate and relate was excellent. If these charges are true, because they're still allegations, they are not a done deal, they're allegations. If they're true, then Eugene Henley was somebody who presented two faces to this world.
Charges in this gang bust range from racketeering to murder. A second fugitive the FBI was looking for was also apprehended. The FBI says Henley is from the Hyde Park area of South LA. If convicted, he would face a max sentence of life in federal prison. We are told that he should be in court tomorrow. Live in the newsroom, Mark Cotarobles, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. David, back to you.
All right, so that's enough for you, Mark. Let's go ahead and downsize that, because we got a few other stories that we got to look at very, very, very short. Now, real quick, I want to pull up some notes that I took just so you all can see the outline of where we're going and what pages or what part of this criminal indictment that we are actually going to look at. So just give me 1 minute. I want to pull this up. This Word document. Okay, so we're going to focus and take a look at the alleged murders, the alleged robberies. We always got to look at the white collar crimes, because that's kind of what my area of expertise is, and this is kind of what we do on this channel. So we're going to take a look at trafficking charges, fraud of the economic disaster, loan fraud program, wire fraud, and bank fraud. Then we're going to look at a few other crimes. The indictment, like I said, is over 100 pages. The FBI started this investigation in 2021. So when you got an indictment over 100 pages, this is not something that was done in a 12-month period. They actually started the operation drawdown in 2021. Murder, extortion, robbery, alleging a mafia-like organization, enterprise. Of course, we just said this, or the news gentleman just said this. He's facing potential life in prison. Talked about that. Talked about the lunch date. He ran this enterprise separately. We're going to talk a little bit about the check-in. The check-in is interesting because the feds are alleging that the check-in requirement was for legitimate activities that were conducted in the neighborhood. So if someone wanted to come in and shoot a movie or something, and illegitimate activities, allegedly. If somebody wanted to knock somebody's muffin top off, they had to check in. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the Developing Options nonprofit that was founded in 2004. What is RICO? Very brief, because I covered that before, but we're going to briefly talk about what is RICO, defrauded companies and athletes, alleged pocketing of $100,000 in donations from Developing Options. We're going to talk about, I actually got a really good story, but I'm not going to have time to do it. I'll probably do it tomorrow. We'll do a live stream. But we're going to talk about the mayor, West Coast's, when it comes to some of their programs, how they run things is ridiculous. But the mayor's program that provided funding to Developing Options should have actually rejected Developing Options, according to the feds. The feds allege that Developing Options did not comply with various rules, such as background checks and various types of training. So they shouldn't have, according to the feds, allegedly, Developing Options shouldn't have even been in the position to be able to get government funding, because they did not meet the criteria to qualify to receive that funding. We're going to talk a little bit about the rapper who was deleted and found in the desert, a little bit about location data and how that was used to, according to the feds, corroborate his involvement in the homicide. And in 2023, the wiretap was authorized by the court. So they started the investigation in 2021. In 2023, they started getting on them phones. And I'm gonna just keep it a buck. When you start getting on the phones, is normally all bad from there. Once you start getting on the phones. So let's go ahead, get out of here. Let's pull up the indictment. Actually, before we pull up the indictment, let's get the two videos out of the way. Let's get these videos out of the way. Then after that, we'll jump into the indictment. These are real short. All right, this first video that we are going to watch is about the check-in. What is the check-in? I think everybody know, but long story short, the check-in. It is interesting because every hood, every neighborhood works differently. I find it interesting because I've seen neighborhoods where you can go check in with the homie and you'll be good. I've seen other neighborhoods where you go check in with the homie and 2 blocks later, don't nobody give a damn about that check in because it's so many different sects and factions of organizations. It's just something that's not it's very rare that one individual can have enough juice to require check-in for the whole block. But essentially, anytime business is being done in the area, according to the feds, whether legitimate or illegitimate, people had to come and check in. Hey, we coming to let you know we doing business here, and we don't want no smoke. We don't want no problems. Just like I don't want as I'm going through this indictment. Okay, but we don't want no problems. Now, the feds are alleging that this method was utilized to extort people, shake them down, to get money in exchange for providing them protection from their ops or protection from potentially the people who you paying the check in for. It could go both ways. This is what the feds are alleging. Let's watch this video because this is why you do not go on social media. We're going to watch 2 videos. This is why you don't go on social media. If I don't give a damn if you're doing everything honest, if you're still hanging around or some guys who got some ties, generally it's just not a good idea to go on social media and talk about anything that you've done. One, if it could be perceived as negative, or you have a criminal history, or you have contacts that are criminal in nature. So let's take a look at this video related to the check-in so y'all can know what it is. And furthermore, so you all can see, just don't go on social media talking about shit.
Movie production in the hood. That's how we do it, man.
Top flight, baby. Yeah.
GB running this here movie set in the hood.
Come on out here.
Coming out here and checking in with GB, getting these movies done. You better know it. You know what I mean? Anytime you want to do movies in the hood, just check it in. We can make sure it's done. Movies, videos. But if you don't check it in,
Oh well. Check your ass out.
we're gonna check you in, all right. We're gonna check in all of your equipment. We're gonna check in all of your equipment.
All right. I think everybody, let me see. Karen works with restorative justice or hugs trees. Facts. All right. What's going on, Royce? I appreciate you for tuning in, sis. Now, I think everybody on this face can see why this was a bad idea. Everything that was said in this video, just as we're perceiving it now, has I'm just gonna say a negative connotation to it. Hey, I think everything was fine. They said, hey, just come check in and you can do your video. If we'd have stopped the video right there, I'd have been like, okay, we got something to work with. When you talk about what happens if you don't check in, then someone in the background, like, you're going to check out and then checking in with your equipment and all. Hey, general rule any attorney will tell you is stop talking about things in general. This is video number 1. But it's never a good idea to go on social media and talk about shit. Literally, when I was a defense attorney and doing investigations, no matter what side it was, anytime I had a complaint in front of me, I would actually go to that person's social media the day that the incident occurred, because nobody even blocked their social media. And people would have all sorts of crazy comments. I'm about to pull up, then I'm gonna show up and show out. And then they charge with like whooping somebody's ass or, assault with a deadly weapon or something like that. Now let's check out this next video. This next video is actually worse. And I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know if it's just a conversation. I don't know if it was done intentionally, but this next video is actually worse. So this is Big U talking about the check-in. Bad idea to go on talk about anything. This next video is Whack 100 having a discussion on a podcast. Let's see how much worse talking on social media or public mediums can be.
I want you to address this, Big U. Did you not ask me to act like your contracts were sold out to me that you had on Nipsey, and you wanted me to go attack Nipsey's estate after his death for 30%?
This is not going hard.
That's crazy. that is absolutely crazy to even bring up on something that hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people are going to watch. So, hey, I don't give out legal advice on this show, but if I were giving out legal advice, if you self-snitching, going on a podcast, just ask Keefy D. We did a video on him. That shit can all come back to bite you in the ass. So, rule number one, stay away from social media. If you're doing anything remotely that could be considered sketch, that's just a general rule. Now let's go ahead, pull this indictment up so we can get in it. Again, we are going to look. Let's go ahead and pull this up. All right, remember, we are going to look at certain sections. I got to get let me line my screen up right and make it bigger because y'all know your boy blind. All right, let's do that there. Now I need to move my notes over to this screen. All right, so right here we got the United States of America versus Eugene Henley Jr. and a bunch of other people who have multiple charges, some of which we may discuss, but we're going to try to keep it focused on the key figure, the most important person who the feds is always going to talk about. All right. This is a complaint. We can actually see at the end of this complaint, I'm not going to read it, but it'll show the background, training, experience of the officer who, the law enforcement agent who wrote all of this. We're going to go ahead, jump to pages 20. 20 is going to talk about the Big U enterprise, the check-in, and the purported legitimate businesses that were used. So let's go ahead. Jump to 20. I'm sorry, there's so much stuff I got. It makes the screens kind of funky. So let's go ahead, jump to page 20. 17, 18, 19. All right, we're going to start here with the Big U enterprise. All right, as discussed herein, I believe that Henley led the Big U enterprise. Robinson was a year-long associate and confidant of Henley and served as his right-hand man, underboss, and enforcer in the Big U enterprise. And Martin was also close confidant, a trusted lieutenant of Henley in the Big U enterprise. Much of the Big U enterprise structure and affiliation with the Rolling 60s is in the public domain. In the television series Hip Hop Undercover, the docuseries, which Henley executive produced, Henley detailed the history of the Rolling 60s and his involvement with the gang. Henley admitted that he was a Rolling 60s member from the first generation. Henley advised that the Rolling 60s was a large Crip gang known to instill fear in the community. Everything you say is going to be put up. I don't give a damn if it's a rat. Like, if you paint a picture of something, it could potentially be used against you. All right. Excuse me. He was a first generation member. Henley was a Rolling 60s members from the first generation. Henley advised that the Rolling 60s was a large Crip gang known to instill fear in the community. Henley claimed that he did not have gang-related tattoos because people already knew where he was from, and it was never a question. A similar quote that Henley often repeated when asked why he has no gang tattoos. Then you see this footnote real quick. Based on my training and experience and participation in this investigation, this statement corroborates precisely how the Big U enterprise works, blah, blah, blah. You'll see those footnotes throughout. All right, Henley often repeated when asked why he had no gang tattoos is that it isn't on you, it's in you. After encountering legal trouble as a juvenile, Henley moved from California to Chicago. Henley admitted elsewhere to being on the run and conducting illegal drug activities in Chicago. While Henley was While Henley was living in Chicago, Henley decided to move back to Los Angeles to participate in the gang war after an associate's murder. At that time, Henley noted his mentality was that we were hunting. To us, it wasn't about fighting, it was about guns now. My philosophy was the gun can get you, my philosophy was the gun can get you any and everywhere you need to be. After Henley returned to Los Angeles in the 1980s, he became known as a fighter for the Rolling 60s by fighting other gang members. As Henley recalled, those fights were about dominating the Rolling 60s competition. Henry remembered he and approximately 200 other Rolling 60s gang members went to a Run DMC concert at a Long Beach Convention Center to establish and maintain their dominance within the Los Angeles-based street gang scene. Henley characterized his and the Rolling 60s moral code at the time as get them before they get you. Throughout the 1980s, Henley fostered a fierce and earned reputation for violence, which included multiple charges for first-degree murder, as well as charged for attempted murder of a peace officer. According to these statements, Henley believed that by 1987, he had cemented his reputation as a tough person who should not be crossed. Henley recounted serving time in county jail, where he beat up other inmates for the purposes of establishing a pecking order. Henley was also earning money through the drug trade in other cities, such as Minneapolis, where he realized he had influence over other Rolling 60 gang members. When Henley was 22, he claimed to stop selling drugs and transition to a different racket. He believed his moniker Big U was so big and ominous. Every time I go through a door, I really was a beast. That was the mentality. Despite having such power within Rolling 60s, Henley did not have a reliable source of income outside of the drug trade. Henley subsequently connected with the hip-hop artist Kenneth Green, a.k.a. Papa LQ, and became his manager. In the docuseries, Papa LQ recounted that Henley was in tune with both the community and gang culture. Henley also became the manager of hip-hop artist Rico Emmanuel Brown, a.k.a. Corrupt, a self-admitted Rolling 60 gang member. In 1991, Henley was found guilty and sentenced to 23 years in prison for robbery, as he admitted he was also charged with kidnapping. While Henley was incarcerated, Henley stated that Corrupt maintained contact with Henley and ensured he was kept abreast of developments in the music industry. In 2022, on the podcast Dub C and C Mac show, Henley described himself as an enforcer in prison and recounted knocking somebody's eyeball out of their socket, as well as committing stabbings. This is hurting my head to read, all these open source admissions. In 2004, Henley was released from prison. In the docuseries, hip-hop artist Calvin Broadus, a.k.a. Snoop Dogg, characterized Henley as institutionalized. You say the wrong thing, you get effed up. He was short-tempered and serious about his stuff he was on. Something about him I liked because I felt like he was a leader. Henley claimed that he was focused on healing his community when he returned home from prison. According to Henley, his primary objective was to effect change and lift the community to a better place instead of destroying it. Henley's own words, though, show he falsely claimed his reformation. For example, on December 31st, 2022, on an intercepted call, Henley explained his motivation for committing murders on behalf of the Big U enterprise, stating, "What you guys see on the internet, y'all keep hearing other people who don't have nothing to talk about but sell. Let me explain something to you. If I would have had a problem with any man, color, creed, king, or kind, the issue would have been resolved, and he wouldn't be here, or I wouldn't be here. It ain't no kid, nothing." And it's crazy, man, that all this stuff is out there. And it damn near nobody who been in this MF for longer than me can stand against me. And me be who I am. If I have a problem with any man, and this wouldn't be so funny to me, I'm still who they say I am. Similarly, in April 23rd, 2023, on an intercepted call, Henley discussed gang politics with a co-conspirator and stated, "I'm retired, Ninja, activist. I'll pull up on your block right now, Ninja, and show up and show out." That's funny. I just said that. I just said that people put that on social media. I'll pull up to your block and show up and show out. That's what happened to the last ninja that thought I was retired. According to the docuseries, everything is in the docuseries. This is driving me, and this is insane. That's what I believe. Why is it a criminal complaint by telephone or other reliable electronic means? Is because it was e-file. I believe that's the case. I'll look and check, but I believe that is why it was done that way. It could have been, I mean, there's really no other advantage. I'm thinking that's why it was, but I'm not sure. I'll find on it and I'll post in the comment on this what the, I guess, reason was. Okay. According to the docuseries, as Henley transitioned to life in Los Angeles following incarceration, he returned to the hip-hop industry. Connected Henley with Suge Knight, the former chief executive of Death Row Records. Henley recounted that Suge assisted him financially when he was released from prison. Henley referred to himself as the Blue Suge Knight. as the Blue Suge Knight, because we know Suge Knight was tied with the opposing gang. As Henley, as of 2004, was widely regarded as the leader of the Rolling 60s. Because of his reputation, Henley was well positioned to ultimately form and lead the Big U Enterprises. In approximately 2008, Henley formed a relationship with the hip-hop artist Nipsey Hussle. After several years, Henley temporarily left the industry after he had a falling out with Nipsey related to equipment at Henley's shop. Henley recounted in the docuseries that Nipsey Hussle made a diss song about Henley, but Henley is a scrapper, not a rapper, Henley stated. That even after they settled their differences, he picked up Nipsey Hussle one morning so that Nipsey Hussle could get disciplined for his diss song. However, Nipsey Hussle's brother intervened and told Henley that Nipsey Hussle was not going anywhere. LAPD reports documented that violence erupted, and when LAPD officers arrived on the scene, a firearm was present and discharged. In 2019, Nipsey Hussle was murdered by a member of the Rolling 60s. All right, now we're going to pivot to the check-in. So we all know what it is. We got about 3 more pages of this part. The check-in. Henley and the Big U Enterprises are widely known for requiring a check-in for out-of-town entertainers or gang members in Los Angeles. As Henley describes in the docuseries, if I don't answer the phone, it can be a death for someone else. Everywhere there's someone like me, and you can't put a monetary value on his touch in hip-hop. After more than 3 decades as a Rolling 60 members and several years managing famous hip-hop artists, Henley was widely regarded as an original gangster or OG. In the docuseries, record producer Andre Young, a.k.a. Dr. Dre, explained that it is very helpful to have an OG who can clear the streets. Within this operating environment, Henley instituted a concept of the check-in when hip-hop artists and other celebrities visited Los Angeles. How the check-in works? The check-in is a term used by someone who travels outside of their home city to another city. During the travel, the individual must check in or meet with local street representatives of said city to pay a tax or fee for permission both to move about freely and to have an event or conduct business in that other city without the risk of harassment or danger from criminal elements. While Henley and other supporters attempted to persuade the public that the check-in provides safety and security for those who do so, as set forth herein, Henley and the Big U Enterprises also manufacture a very danger they purport to protect against. According to Henley's statement in the docuseries, as corroborated by our investigation, some visiting hip-hop artists and other individuals pay Henley a fee to check in if they are not from Los Angeles. In the docuseries, James Anthony, a.k.a. Bimmy, and Steve LaBelle, a CEO of A to Z Entertainment, stressed that it is important to know the right people, such as Henley, when visiting places like Los Angeles. However, the podcaster Livingston Allen, a.k.a. DJ Academics, explained in the docuseries, the check-in is analogous to the commission to a commission for the gang or neighborhood where the OG is from. A bunch of other people. Trick explained in the docuseries that he enforces the check-in in Detroit, Michigan. Trick added, "Come with this is annoying." Long story short, check-in, you getting taxed. If you want to go thinking you partying, thinking you performing business without allegedly paying some type of tax, is not going down. That's the long story short of what a check-in is, because it's just so many examples of rappers and all these names and aliases is ridiculous. This is the interesting part. Henley has also provided examples of individuals who do not check in with them until it's too late, such as rapper, artist Taekwon Terrell Bowman, aka Quando Rondo, whom Henley discussed in another interview, and who was later targeted in a murder for hire plot where his associate was killed. When defending this practice in an interview, Henley has stated that it is no different than when a Learjet flies over the United States airspace. They want to know who you are. Henley said his practice is no different, which I believe indicates that he purports to own and control Los Angeles through the Big U enterprise. All right. How Henley and the Big U enterprise respond to failure to check in. In 2022, the FBI interviewed a cooperating witness, CW1, who told the FBI about one of these check-in incidents. CW1, so they got wiretaps, they got confidential sources. CW1 said that he knew Henley, who was a Rolling 60s member. CW1 also said Henley led a money-making gang that was distinct from the Rolling 60s, referring to the Big U enterprise. According to the confidential source, rap artists, athletes, and other individuals need to pay Henley a fee when they visit Los Angeles. CW1 believed the fee that Henley collected were extortion payments. This confidential source then recounted a large buy-in dice game that occurred in Los Angeles in 2019. The gang involved professional boxer AB, AB's associate, and several prominent NBA players. Who's AB? Adrian Broner? I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm not saying AB is Adrian Broner about what was this, about billions. I'm not saying it was Adrian Broner, but I'm a boxing guy. I love the sweet science. AB, I think of Adrian Broner. That's it. I mean, I don't know. Arturo Blackson. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody else. I'm just asking a question, not saying. So, dice game, AB and his associates and several prominent NBA players, according to the confidential source. AB and his associates fixed the game and cheated the NBA players out of millions of dollars using, that's crazy, shaved dice. Following that game, Henley directed a group of Big U enterprise associates to rough up AB, who did not check in with Henley, and to get the money back from him on behalf of the cheated NBA players. Multiple members of the Rolling 60s ultimately arrived, and Henley used them to press AB. Confidential source said that Henley was involved in the incident because Henley was involved in and or would approve any dice games or similar events, such as parties involving large sums of money and prominent NBA players and celebrities in Los Angeles. Multiple persons involved in the incident who have since been interviewed, including former NBA players, confirmed that Henley was paid $100,000 for negotiating this debt. However, each was later approached by associates of AB and told they still owed the money. AB was like, I don't care what happened back then. We getting this money. I'm trying to think who else could AB be. All right. Confidential source was aware of other instances where NBA players or other celebrities who would need to work would get approval in advance from Henley to ensure their safety at events in Los Angeles, such as parties, gamblings, and so forth. All right, so next up, we're going to pivot to 33 through 39. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to go to 33, 39. I think that's important because, I mean, it's probably the most serious charge. Yeah, it's a murder. So let's jump to page 33. Racketeering activity and murdering RW. Real quick, let me just check in. Hey, what's going on? I appreciate you for tuning in. Shout out to everybody in the chat. All right, so let's go ahead and turn to racketeering and the actual murder Let me see. I want to make sure I cover what's in my notes. Okay. All right. As set forth below, there's probable cause to believe that Henley murdered victim RW on January 25th, 2001. I'm going to be honest, when I heard some of this stuff about this murder, I'm going to just be honest, it was given flimsy. So let's see what they got to say and see what their evidence is. Okay. On January 25th, 21, Henley allegedly murdered RW and dragged his body into the desert in North Las Vegas. On that morning, the Las Vegas PD detective discovered the body of RW lying in the desert near the Apex landfill. RW had been shot multiple times, and his body had been dragged and left in a ditch not far from Interstate 15. Hours before his homicide, RW was at the studio with Witness 2. RW was at the studio of Witness 2 with Henley. Investigations revealed that RW was one of Henley's recording artists and was at the studio as a guest of Henley's, recording for Unique Music, the independent record label that Henley and Martin co-founded. According to the studio witness, Witness 1, who was employed as security for the recording studio, Henley was, everybody probably going to know who that is, Henley was one of the last people seen with RW prior to RW's homicide. Witness 1 also states that Robinson drove Henley to Las Vegas from Los Angeles in a dark gray Lexus, and that Witness 1, in his security capacity, encountered Henley and Robinson when they arrived at the studio and had words with them because he did not know who they were. Witness 1's statements to Vegas PD at the onset of the murder investigation had been corroborated by other witnesses and cell phone location data, among other evidence. Further investigation revealed motive, opportunity, obstruction, and culpatory statements, and more from Henley and other members and associates of the Big U Enterprises. Culpatory statements is statements that are against your interests. The murder in connection to the Big U Enterprises. On January 20th, 2021, 5 days before the murder and 3 days before Henley and Robinson drove to from LA to Vegas, RW recorded a diss tracker, short for disrespect song that the Vegas Police Department later obtained. In it, RW rapped about the person who had the money that RW would be shot in the face for thinking it's funny, and referenced a .38 revolver with no trace. Based on my knowledge of this investigation and conversations with others, I believe that, in this song, RW was dissing Henley, referring to Henley as the bro that makes some money, and that RW may get shot in the face for thinking his lackadaisical use of the studio and general representation by Unique Music is funny. RW was shot days later in the face, apparently with a revolver, like a .38. Yeah, I don't know if it was a .38 or not. That's weird. That left no shell casings. It is unknown that Henley heard these lyrics prior to the murder. The effectiveness of the Big U Enterprise is premised on Henley's stature as the most feared man in Los Angeles. As such, ensuring that no one disrespect Henley and that any such perceived disrespect is met with reprehensible violence is a core tenet of the Big U Enterprises, and even more so when that disrespect is displayed publicly, like in front of extortion victims. As Henley himself stated on an intercepted call in 2023, can't no ninja beef with me, because if he do, I'ma delete him, period. I am going to delete him. After Robinson explained in a surreptitious secret recording, when Henley got out, he said, "I'm the toughest ninja, and here's my body of work to prove it. And I'm the only ninja still killing ninjas today. You ninjas retired. I didn't. They understand that." Because the Big U Enterprise existence relies on thrives and fear of violence, perception is paramount to its success. Let me see. I'm trying to see something. Through our investigation, I skipped down a few paragraphs. Through our investigation, no investigator, family member, witness, or any third party has ever identified any individual that would have a motive or opportunity to delete RW except Henley. That's a crazy statement right there. I think I'm going to be honest, I think that's a crazy statement. I think that's a really weak statement. Through our investigation, no investigator, family member, witness, or any third party has ever identified any other individual that would have motive or opportunity. I don't know. Like, I, any third party that has ever identified, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that statement as it's written. I probably would have wrote it differently. I think it's to me it's just giving weak. Like, okay, nobody who talked to you identified anybody else, but that don't mean there's nobody else out there. And to keep it a buck, people get deleted all the time by random ass strangers. Um, as I read this is laying out some information, but a lot of it is not hard information that I would like to see. It's just based off of the history, representation, and statements that were made by Henley and others on open source. But this is just, a criminal complaint and indictment. They probably have more evidence. Let's see if we can get down to. Okay, here you go. We're going to skip down to paragraph 53. Henley's cell phone location corroborates his involvement in RW's murder. This is okay. This is some substance. All of that stuff was just broth. I didn't see any real substance in that. I reviewed cell phone location information obtained via search warrants by the Vegas Police Department for 2 phones associated with Henley for the time before, during, and after the homicide. According to witness 1 and 2, and one of RW's friends who was visiting him in Vegas on the day he was murdered, as well as an analysis of Henley's phone, Henley and Robinson arrived in Vegas on January 23rd. Cell phone data can corroborate that. Okay, so far that's fair. The night before the murder, Henley's phone's location data and witnesses showed that he arrived at an Airbnb on Round Rock Drive in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Airbnb RW was staying in prior to the homicide. Okay, cell phone data puts him in the location where we know RW was at, in the middle of the night. Henley, through unique music, was paying for the Airbnb. Surveillance footage from the Airbnb showed a dark gray or silver sedan arriving at the Airbnb and leaving shortly after. The surveillance video also showed Henley at the Airbnb. All right, we know he drove the dark gray Lexus. Okay, so far they trying to put a little bit of some carrots in the suit. I don't know if there's any meat or potatoes, but they put a little bit of carrots in there. On January 24th, 2021, the night of the murder, at approximately 7:04 p.m., Henley arrived at the studio. According to witnesses, at approximately 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., RW arrived at the studio and recorded a song from approximately 11 p.m. until midnight. On January 25th, so this is the next morning, 37 minutes after RW recorded the song at 12:31, Henley left the studio in a dark gray Lexus in which he and Robinson had driven to the studio, and he was no longer at the studio. At approximately 12:58, Henley's phone stopped recording location data of any kind, with the last data recorded within the vicinity of the studio. At approximately 1:13 a.m., surveillance footage of the Airbnb again revealed a dark gray or silver sedan arriving at the Airbnb. RW exited the passenger side of the vehicle and entered the Airbnb. A few minutes later, at approximately 1:20, RW exited the Airbnb with a suitcase, put the suitcase in the trunk, and got in a dark gray or silver sedan, which departed. The Airbnb, though, was rented for another day, and RW was not set to leave until a flight scheduled for the following day. Both Henley's phone did not report location data until approximately 2:15 a.m. All right, so he had a gap in time. Hold on, I want to make sure I'm following this. All right, so he had a gap in time from 12:58 a.m. to 2:15 a.m. because his phone stopped receiving cell phone data, which, I mean, we know that, they got a subpoena. We know that that was his phone. Strategically, I think that wasn't stupid to do. It was actually smart to do. Based on the investigator test drives and research, the drive from the studio, okay, they trying to throw some potatoes in now. The drive from the studio to the Airbnb would take roughly 17 minutes. After Henley phone stopped reporting the location data, and when they left the vicinity of the studio, the dark sedan arrived with RW at the Airbnb 15 minutes later, which is consistent with traffic patterns after midnight. The drive from the Airbnb to the location where RW's body was found, and then the location where Henley phone began reporting again, would take roughly 42 minutes. The time from when RW left the Airbnb to when Henley phone began reporting again is 48 minutes. The approximate time for the drive, deletion, and moving of the body, particularly in the middle of the night without traffic, if we piecing it up just off of this right here, these are just allegations, but they pieced that together pretty good. I must admit that was pieced together pretty good. Of what we read so far, that was the first. Okay, now they're trying to add some substance to it. One of Henley phones that made a call to Robinson, who witness one reported was still in the studio, which is corroborated by Robinson's phone location data. According to witness one, Robinson asked witness one if he had seen Henley, which witness one found odd since Robinson was Henley's driver and bodyguard. Approximately 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m., Henley returned to the studio alone in the dark gray Lexus and spoke with witness one, who reported that Henley appeared to be drenched in either sweat or water. Henley told witness one that he was coming back from the gym. All right, that was so far they pieced that up nice. RW's body was found hours later at approximately 9 a.m. One of the Vegas PD detectives investigating the murder believe RW died at the location near the side of the road on I-15 after he observed the roadway contained a distinct patch of blood which trailed down the hill from the roadway into the desert along with the drag marks. Henley phone location data shows that he departed Las Vegas to return to LA at approximately 10 a.m. And this is page 38. We're going one more page we're going one more page we're on 38 to 39. All right, evidence from the scene. Officers and medical professionals responded to the scene of RW's murder, and subsequent autopsy found that RW died from multiple gunshot wounds. The responders noted that RW was not dressed for the weather, which was cold and inclement on that night of the murder. DNA was collected from RW's ankle, socks area, consistent with the direction that RW was dragged into the desert off the highway. Now, I'm probably like, well, why are they piecing up this part about him not being dressed? Well, what they're trying to do here is lay the foundation. They already talked about how, we can look at the video and see that Big U is a big dude. We know about his ability to whoop people's ass. That's why they laid the foundation for. We can tell just from reading this about his intimidation and the fact that he don't need tattoos because his reputation for putting in work, doing what he need to do precedes him. So the reason that they're trying to piece this up with, okay, well, he wasn't dressed for the cold, because what they're going to do if they don't do it in here is they're going to try to essentially push this towards, hey, this is a big guy. When he went to the Airbnb allegedly with RW, he was like, yo, get your ass in the car or it's going to be problems. That's why RW was dressed, not properly dressed for the inclement weather, because they're probably going to say that he was forced against his will to be in that vehicle based on, Big U's ability to whip somebody's ass. That's what I'm assuming, if it's not already in here later. But that's why they pieced that up like that. All right. They noted that he wasn't. Yes, the DNA showed that he was dragged in the direction. All right. The DNA profile obtained was not complete, likely due to the aforementioned inclement weather on the night of the murder. Analysis of Henley's DNA profile was inconclusive, such that he could not be excluded as a contributor to the DNA. Robinson, on the other hand, was excluded as a potential contributor of the DNA found. Great. That's actually great for the defense in this case. Analysis of Henley DNA profile was inconclusive, such that he cannot be excluded. Well, you can be excluded, but you can't be actually saying that, hey, this DNA was tied to you. I think that's a great point for the prosecution. And this is the last part of this, page 39, is paramount to this actual homicide. Henley arranges for recording equipment from the studio to be removed and surveillance video to be destroyed. Witness 1 told the detectives that D.S. Henley's associate removed the video recording equipment from the studio a couple days after the homicide, including destruction of surveillance video data that would have showed R.W. and Henley at the studio shortly before R.W.'s murder. Witness 2 told the feds that Henley ordered witness 1 and 2 to leave the premises, take a walk prior to the removal of the video recording equipment. Witness 1 explains that 3 relatively new surveillance and working DVR devices had been removed from the studio and all the security cameras were disabled. Witness 1 stated that replacement DVRs were installed, but they did not work. Witness 3, who had previously installed the DVR equipment at the recording studio, also spoke with the feds. According to Witness 3, on January 31st, 2021, Witness 3 went to the studio to fix the cameras that were not working at the studio. After Witness 2 called Witness 3 to fix them, Witness 3 analyzed the equipment and concluded that the DVR system was unplugged or turned off. According to Witness 1, DS then sent him money to purchase new DVR equipment for the studio. I believe that there is probable cause to conclude that footage from the DVR system would have shown an altercation between Henley and R.W. on the night of January 24th, 2021, and at a minimum, Henley and R.W. leaving the studio together shortly before R.W.'s murder. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and pivot. We're going to get to, that's 3 pages, 30, 10. All right, we're almost done. Let's take a look. We're going to pivot to page 49 through 53, where we're going to talk a little bit about, and I don't know if we're going to do all these because I think these are parsed out on separate occasions, if I'm not mistaken. Robbery in violation of the Hobbs Act is a racketeering activity. According to witnesses, including victim 1, and corroborated repeatedly by wiretap and recorded meetings with Big U Enterprise members, Big U Enterprises set up and executed robberies throughout LA. Normally, Henley would provide target and location while the robbery, Normally, Henley provides the target and location while the robbery is committed by Big U Enterprises or at the Big U's Enterprises direction using the Rolling 60s or other associates. The Big U Enterprise, as well as the individual who personally commit the robberies, will take a cut and then often sell the robbery proceeds or give the robbery proceeds back to the victim as a power grab to instill fear for future robbery or violence. All right, we're not going to read through all of these. I think okay, we're just going to read one instance of this robbery because I'm not too concerned with the robbery because we know what a robbery is. Henley directs a robbery of and conspires to rob and Robinson and William personally rob a marijuana dispensary at gunpoint. One such robbery occurred on July 5th, 2021 at an unlicensed marijuana dispensary in Los Angeles where victim 1 worked. Leading up to the robbery, Big U Enterprises had been extorting victim 1 for years, and victim 1 had been paying the Big U Enterprises up to $25K per month when victim 1 was at the top of his earning capacity. Shortly before the robbery, however, victim 1 had ceased paying the extortion to Big U Enterprises as victim 1 did not believe it was necessary or that he was receiving any benefit from the payments. All right. On the day of the robbery, approximately 11 of the Big U Enterprise members and associates, including Robinson and Williams, of both whom victim 1 know well, as well as Rolling 60 members, rushed into the dispensary armed with firearms without masks. They demanded belongings of anyone inside, stole cash marijuana from the store before fleeing. At one point, they demanded a Rolex watch from one of the co-owners, but at Robinson's directions, they ended up letting him keep it. According to victim 1, while still at the dispensary, the robbers put victim 1 on the phone with Henley, who invited victim 1 to Henley's home. According to victim 1, when victim 1 arrived at Henley's Arlington premises, Robinson, Williams, and other robbers were there, as were the proceeds of the robbery. Inside, Henley told victim one, "That's how you rob yourself." Henley then demanded $10,000 from victim one to ensure other robberies did not occur. Henley also directed victim one to identify other businesses or dispensaries that could be similarly robbed and assure victim one that the Big U enterprise would compensate him for identifying any robberies. Henley then provided a portion of the robbery proceeds back to victim one. Williams later admitted to this robbery in the aftermath. Idiots. Stop talking on podcasts. Williams later admitted to this robbery and the aftermath on a podcast, on the No Jumper podcast, after stating that Williams and him was Henley's right-hand man. Williams explained, so basically he'll manipulate things. We'll go and do something, and then the same ninjas we do it to show up to the house like 10 minutes later as we are trying to count everything, and we'd be like, how the blank? And Williams then said that Henley would state, well, we just going to give like 40,000 back. Whack 100, who is a rival counterpart of Henley for the Bloods, was also on the podcast and stated, you know why he wanted to give the dudes back 40, right? Because he was going to make that dude give him 20 for getting it back. Williams then agreed. Of course, he did it to two famous rappers. Williams then detailed demanding 50,000 from celebrity rapper RR, or they would kill the celebrity rapper MM. Williams then said RR dropped off 50,000 and Henley stopped answering the phone and then did not share any of the proceeds with Williams. All right, so we see what's going on here. People are just getting the shakedown, the strong arm, according to this indictment. Now let's take a look at the thing I think is more interesting. This is 10 pages, and this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of the white collar stuff. The economic injury, disaster loan fraud, wire fraud, and bank fraud. And this is going to be interesting because I'm interested to see how this was done, how this was committed, how it was, if it was done in a way that was actually smart. Let's go ahead and jump to page 67. This is crazy. A lot of this would have been less harmful. A lot of this would have been less harmful had so many people not gone on so many platforms. If had so many people not gone on so many platforms and talk about what they did. Do I want to talk about that? I'll just read it. They have an allegation: transportation of individuals in interstate commerce with the intent for individuals to engage in prostitution in violation of the Mann Act and as a racketeering activity. This is pretty much some Diddy-esque charge. I'm going to skip over it, but this is what's alleged. We talked about the Mann Act before. The Mann Act was actually created because they didn't want black men back in the day traveling around with white women, and so the Mann Act was created, and it said I can't remember the language that it used offhand, but it made it a crime to travel across state lines with a woman for the purposes of something like debauchery or something that you can't define. What the hell is debauchery? It was something crazy like that, but that's where the Mann Act has its roots at. But we're going to scroll down and get to the white collar stuff. Fraud in violation of federal wire bank fraud statute as a racketeering activity. The economic EIDL is what it's called, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. I think of it as PPP light. Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program fraud. Through Unique Music, Henley, on behalf of Big U Enterprise and the entities it controls, also committed fraud intended for COVID-19 pandemic relief-related disasters. According to the Secretary of State filing for Unique Music, Henley is his CEO, and he controlled the business checking account in the name of Unique Music Entertainment, Inc., with Bank of America. In 2020, Henley defrauded the SBA of $90,000 loan through the Unique Music account under the EIDL loan program. The SBIA administered an EIDL to provide low-interest financing to small businesses affected by declared disasters. In or about March 2020, Congress passed the Coronavirus Economic Security Act, the CARES Act, which authorized SBA to provide EIDL loans up to $200,000. That's that's crazy. That's crazy. That's actually 2 mil to small business experienced substantial financial disruption as a result of the pandemic. To obtain an EIDL loan, a qualifying small business was required to submit an application through the SBA's website. In the EIDL loan application, the applicant was required to provide, among other information, the gross revenue for a 12-month period preceding January 31st, 2020. As part of the application and to be eligible to obtain the loan, the applicant was required to make certain certifications under penalty of perjury. This is where the feds catch a lot of people with putting a false statement because it was untrue, either by making a false statement or by omitting truthful information on purpose. The application was required to certify that all information in the application and submitted with the application was true and correct to the best of the applicant's knowledge, and that the applicant would submit truthful information in the future. On June 16, 2020, Henley electronically submitted an EIDL application. He falsely represented that Unique Music in 2019 had gross revenues of $500,000 and the cost of goods sold of $300,000. The true financial records were obtained through the course of this investigation, so that these representations made by Henley on the application forms were false. Based on bank records, Unique Music was operating at approximately $5,000 loss in 2019. Specifically, the total amount of money that came in was approximately $30,000, and the total amount of money that went out was approximately $35,000. Nonetheless, Henley claimed that Unique Music was operating at a $200,000 profit in 2019. That's going to be very easy to prove. Again, this isn't broth. This is giving potatoes, because a false statement is easy to prove just by looking at the documents. Those fraudulent misrepresentations caused the SBA to give Unique Music a $90,000 loan. In documents produced in response to the subpoena, newly created financial documents for Unique Music also show that the claims to the SBA are false, as the documents show Unique Music operated at a negative 72.57% profitability. On June 24th, 2020, from Los Angeles, Henley electronically signed a loan agreement between Unique Music and the SBA. Every time he signed two, those are other instances of wire fraud, electronic means to carry out a fraudulent scheme, where he certified that all the representations in his application were true, correct, and complete. And a lot of times what's done, I know because I said this should be the rule. When you have somebody who signs paperwork under penalty of perjury to say that, hey, we agreed to do this to be able to get these funds, a savvy agency would actually make them do quarterly certifications. If I make you do quarterly certification, every time you do that certification, I got a nice new refreshed charge that I could hit you with if you're falsifying documents. If you do one certification on the front end, then 4 years go by, 5 years go by, you lost the statute of limitations for false statements. So normally they like to do quarterly. Hey, we're going to do a quarterly certification, and if you lie on each one of those, it just gives them a new charge with a new statute of limitations to move on. On June 26, Henley accepted another transfer of $89,000. Wire fraud through embezzlement of charitable organization. The investigation also revealed that Henley has committed wire fraud through embezzling donations at Developing Options for the purposes of executing his scheme. Henley transmitted and caused the transmission of multiple checks, transfers, and items by means of wire communication. I've reviewed bank records of Developing Options bank account, Henley's personal bank account, as well as donations and information provided by the donors. Henley embezzled $20,000 of donation from current NBA All-Star to Developing Options. I'm believing this is Draymond Green. August 20th, 2019, Developing Options received $20,000 from a current NBA All-Star. The wire transfer identified the donation as for charity. Donor 1 confirmed he provided a charitable donation to Developing Options. Henley, however, embezzled the entire $20,000 donation by transferring the funds into his personal account. That's no number one. You just control the money through your organization, and it's probably not embezzlement because you're an employee of the organization or you purchase something that could be used for the organization. But he directly transferred it to his personal checking account the day after developing options received the funds. He was also heard on an intercepting call asking for confirmation of the charitable contribution. Another instance, he embezzled $14,000 allegedly from donor 2. This just goes on and on. He embezzled $15,000 donation from donor 3. Henley embezzles $10,000 in donations from donor 4. I just don't even need to read these. These are all the same thing. He embezzles $19,000 from a donation from donor 5. $36,000, another donation. $32,000. God damn, he's allegedly racking it up over here. All right, we're not gonna get into his tax crimes or his other crimes. Let's just go ahead and talk about this real quick. And there was an actual video. No, let's cancel this. Let's go back here. There was an actual video. I don't know if you all saw the video. Actually, let me see if I can pull this video up real quick because I want y'all to see a video that he filmed prior to turning himself in. Again, this goes as to why you shouldn't say anything just about certain stuff. Let's go to history. Give me 1 second. I want to see. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cue this up. Let's listen to this. This is as Big U is going to go turn himself in. He's making some comments. He's doing a live stream, which is, like I said, a terrible idea. Shout out to the Law and Crime Network because I knew they had this because it was marked and it was easier. But listen to this. This is another example why you don't tell some things. You just don't say shit. When stuff goes bad, just don't say anything until you talk to your lawyer. Listen to this. I'm gonna pause it a few times to talk about some things that are probably not going to be favorable.
Talk to my sons. I talk to everybody, man. I'm just saying, going to deal with this fight, see what it is. I just want y'all to know, all this stuff is quagmire. Shit is all bull crap. No, I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to, I don't even know what to say. I'm 21 years, elevated my family.
I'm gonna fast forward it a little bit because I want to get to the meat and potatoes. All right.
You hear me? Help my own family. Appreciate y'all. Go. I'm looking at this video as I come in to turn myself in, and I'm disheartened by the fact that they trying to say that I stole something from Developing Option. I used Developing Option as a front. Developing Option paid my bills. They paid my house note. They paid the bills for my family, the money I made from as an employee for Developing Option. I never mixed that with nothing. I didn't manipulate nobody. I didn't steal nothing. We did PPP loans. We did.
This is why you don't say anything. I can't stress this enough. I just can't do the video without saying this. The false statements, the wire fraud, transferring money from account A directly to his account. I actually read an article. I think his salary was like $95,000, slightly under $100,000. It's It will be. It is so easy to prove that because they don't need any video to prove it. All they need is actual documentation. So the reason this is bad is if you're online and you're saying that, yo, I didn't steal anything, you don't want a statement that you made for purposes of, I don't know, just to make it on social media to plead your case, to potentially come back and be used to impeach you or attack your credibility or your veracity or whether or not you're truthful in that. If you make a statement like, yo, I've never transferred money, they paid me. All it takes them is to actually prove that, hey, if we could prove that you got your salary check and you moved money from the business account to your personal account and it wasn't consistent with the biweekly salary pay, we got you stating something that's untrue. In a case like this, because of the crimes committed or alleged, he's going to have to introduce testimony to talk about his credibility as a person. If I was him, I probably wouldn't even get on the stand to testify, especially with that murder. That's crazy work. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't testify or wouldn't advise him to testify, but testifying is up to the client. But for something like this, these statements are just terrible. Even if you can't use these statements to prove the guilt or innocence, you could potentially use these statements to prove whether or not he's truthful.
I'm looking at this video as I come in the termination. I never mixed that with nothing. I didn't manipulate nobody. I didn't steal nothing. We did PPP loans. We did 2 loans. And that's it, just like everybody else did. I didn't use no fraud. I didn't give none of fake names. And one of them we was paying back and one they forgave. You know what I mean? And the other one we attempted for and they didn't give us nothing for it.
All right, I don't even want to watch no more of this because it's giving me a headache. It's legit giving me a headache watching him say things that could be construed against his interests. Oh my goodness, he like the guy in New York. Send me the link to it, and I will definitely queue it up for you, brother. Send me the link to it. But my quick take on this is there are some things in the complaint that seem flimsy, but there are some things that have some substance and I think have a lot of strong evidence. I think all the white collar stuff has a lot of strong evidence just of what we covered. There's a lot more to cover, but it's just too long. I think that they pieced up very nicely the facts and evidence surrounding the homicide. That's going to be one of the biggest charges. I mean, the RICO is a charge in and of itself. Real quick, let me see. I think I had something on. Did I? Nah, I ain't have it. But real quick, I think this is probably not going to end well. We have to see what arguments his attorneys made. Hopefully he has the money to get him a really high-powered legal team because these are some serious ass charges. And with an investigation from 2021, confidential sources, multiple witnesses, bank records, and wiretaps, in addition to GPS triangulation data to put you in close proximity, it is going to be interesting. And the biggest thing is, I think 13 to 18 people were arrested. Hey, I would be shocked if everybody stands on business and nobody says anything. That's not normally how this thing works. People tell all the damn time. Like I told you, in all these years, over 15 years in this game, I can think of 2 people who were like, nah, I'm good. Most people, when they looking at time, when they see them years potentially adding up, they're gonna do whatever is in their best interest. I mean, not all people, but most people that I've seen. So it's going to be interesting. I think that these charges have a lot of substance. I think that all of these statements that he made on social media, all the statements that other people made on social media who got arrested about the conduct that he was doing that's actually in this indictment, that shit is just going to all come back around to bite him in the you know what. I mean, hey, it's all allegations. We got to see what the defense says, but I'm just going to keep it a buck. With an investigation that's been going on since 2021 and an arrest in 2025, I don't see how you get out of this unscathed. I just don't see it. It's too many charges. It's too many counts. It's too many witnesses, sources. It's too many people who could potentially turn state's evidence on you. So I just don't see how you can get out of this unscathed. It's going to be interesting to see how this battle plays out. Yo, that's it. Tomorrow we're going to do a live stream. It's going to be a fun one. Not a deep dive, but a video into something where we're going to talk about another deletion that was done by a husband and wife, a married couple. We're going to talk a little bit about it. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I don't want to blame anybody for someone being, a deletion occurring, a criminal deletion occurring, but it's just crazy. I'm not even going to tell y'all what it is. Y'all see the thumbnail. We're going to do it tomorrow because I didn't have enough time to get through it tonight. Yo, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, everybody in the chat. Grateful for everybody who hit me up on email with content, everybody who watched, like, share, subscribe. I love y'all, and I'm truly grateful. Y'all have a good night. Be blessed. Peace.